Is AI actually any good at tracking calories? Well, I'm going to be testing ChatGPT, Gemini and Claude against a full day of eating, including a meal out, to see how accurate they actually are. I'll be testing each AI model in 3 different ways. I'll be taking a photo, I'll be adding a description to that photo, and then I'll be adding a description and measurements to that photo. But before we get started, I want you to guess, which model do you think will be the most accurate? Let me know down in the comments. So let's get eating. So breakfast this morning is the same as every morning. I'm having my protein porridge bowl with grapes. Now, as I was making this, I took measurements so I knew exactly how many calories it would have in it. So according to my fitness pal, it's got 335 calories, 32 grams of carbs, 9 grams of fat, and 32 grams of protein. So let's get cracking with our first photo. Now, one thing about this meal is you can't tell what's in it just by looking at it. So I'm really curious to find out what the predictions are from AI with just the photo alone. Okay, so first up we are testing Claude. I'm gonna upload the photo and we're gonna choose that one. Then we're just gonna put our prompt in, how many calories are in this ? And let's see what it kicks out. So it's first off predicted that it's a chocolate mug cake or a microwave cake made in a bowl. Now the ingredients in it are completely wrong, but the calories, it's not crazy far off. It has overestimated. It's given us a smaller range of 400 to 450 calories as a midpoint guess. But it has asked the question, can you give me more detail basically? Do you know the recipe you use? I can work out precisely from the ingredients and quantities. So let's give it some more detail now. So I'm now pasting in the same prompts that we're gonna use for all of them. This is a porridge bowl with protein powder and grapes. Let's see if it updates the calories. Now it already knows a little bit of information about me. That makes more sense with your For You lifestyle now. Oh, and now it's asking for more details. So Claude has really come through here with asking for more details and making sure that we have the exact number. Now I'm gonna get it to give us a guess based on the data that it currently has, and then we're gonna give it the numbers. Okay, so it's actually staying very close to the numbers that it said already. It's sticking in the 400 to 450 calorie range, which we know is over, but this isn't the end of the world. Now let's add the extra details in and give it the measurements. All right, so final details going in. Oh, and we are almost bang on. We are in the 350 to 380 range. I'm impressed by Claude. And it's even asked us for more details to tighten this up. But if you were on a time pressure, we know that if you just took the photo first off, we're not getting the best measurements out of this. But as soon as we're adding more description, we're getting pretty good data out. All right, on to ChatGPT. Okay, so first off, we're just gonna add our image in again. Same image, tick that. How many calories are in this ? Send. All right, ChatGPT, let's see what you got. Now, this is really interesting. It's telling us straight off that it can't accurately calculate the calories from the photo alone because it doesn't know what's going on. And I think this really, really highlights how important it is whenever you're tracking that measurements and the quantities of what you're putting in will dictate how many calories you are eating. Now, actually, this has got much more accurate on the chocolate baked oats, protein cake, brownie bowl, or microwave cake dessert. Obviously, we're right on the chocolate baked oats there. And the calories, it's given us a full spectrum depending on what it is. So it's given us 300 to 600 as the range, which again is pretty good. It's a bit big of a range. So let's add some more details in now. So we're still getting a broad estimate, but the calories are much more accurate at the start. They're all overestimating the amount of oats that I've put in this. I think what I'm getting from this is I need to put more oats in my breakfast. But we're looking like we're in the 400 to 650 range. Again, still looking quite high, but I'd rather these apps overestimate than underestimate when we're working out calories. I'm really excited later on to find out whether it does the same thing when it's a meal out. Okay, now time for the tighter estimate. Let's give it the details. So ChatGPT is coming in with the table. Estimated calories are now under based on this. Now, I haven't said that there's any milk in this, but from context we would know that there would be water or milk. Let's see if it's asked any questions. No, it's not asked any questions regarding the milk in there. So actually we've ended up with an underestimation, but that's possibly due to my prompt error. But this is really useful to see because you can now see the level of detail that you need to put in. I'm not sure this is that much faster than just putting it into MyFitnessPal or any other calorie tracking apps. Now it should have probably asked us another question about whether we use milk or water in this context, but the calories are not crazy far off. Best case scenario, they're 30 down. Let's move on to Gemini before we look at the skulls on the door. Okay, Gemini, let's go. So we're gonna add our photo first off. Add photo. How many calories are in this? So again, Gemini has been a little bit closer in the estimations of what it is. We've got there with the baked chocolate oats. I'm really appreciative of how high this standard has been with that. I can't give you the exact numbers because rather than just people pleasing, can AI people please? But rather than just trying to appease you with a number for the sake of it. Now it's actually given us options here. Whereas if it's a standard mug cake, here's what we're predicting. And if it's healthy baked oats, then here's what we're predicting. Now the range that it's given us is between 250 and 350, which it actually falls into. So they've all been pretty good at guessing the amount of calories in this. So let's give it our next prompt. Now, interestingly, it's actually gone for the right number of oats this time. And interestingly, it's also estimated that it wasn't water that was used. The total calorie numbers are lower, and it's given us a few variables to consider. I think this is possibly the best one that we've got so far. So let's tell it our measurements and see what numbers that we get. So Gemini is now coming in strong, saying that we can get a very precise estimate. So let's see what it comes up with. Now, it has assumed water for the liquid base, but it has told us that we want to add extra calories in if we have used soy milk. So if we add the top end of the calories in, we're actually pretty close. Gemini, I'm impressed. So where I've been given a range by the AI, what I've done is taken that middle number and used that as our reference point. So looking at the data, Claude was 90 calories over for the photo only, ChatGPT was 115 calories over, and Gemini was 35 calories under. So Gemini is currently winning on the closest with the photo. So when we added the photo with the description, Claude was 40 calories over, ChatGPT was 215 calories over, and Gemini was 28 calories under. ChatGPT, what were you playing at? So again, Gemini is coming in at the closest. And finally, when we added that extra bit of detail, Claude was only 30 calories over, ChatGPT ended up 45 calories under, and Gemini was 35 calories under. Meaning that when we had the most detail, Claude was the most accurate. Now, these numbers might not sound like much, but when we add these discrepancies up throughout the day, this could be the difference between you being in a deficit and you not being in a deficit. So let's keep investigating, is AI calorie tracking gonna work? So it is lunchtime and we have got an omelette and toast for this meal. I'm super excited to eat this, but more excitingly, there's 2 hidden ingredients in this and I wanna see if the AI can pick that up. Now, the first hidden ingredients inside of this is the cheese that's on the inside of the omelette. The second is the oil that I use to cook. There are 596 calories in this meal. Let's see how close we can get. So starting off again with Claude, how many calories are in this meal? Let's go. So Claude is coming in pretty close with the 550 calories. It's already highlighted those uncertainties and actually has added an extra 1 in. So it doesn't know how many eggs have been used. It's guessing 2 to 3, which is correct. It's 3 eggs. Doesn't know how much oil has been used / butter that it was cooked in. Now it says it's quite brown, so probably a fair amount, but that's incorrect. I used about 10 grams, or 10 mil rather. So let's add some detail and see if we can get any closer. I don't think the numbers are going to change too much here. It pretty much picked up on what was going on the picture. Yep, calories still the same. So let's add our final bit of detail and see if we get any closer. So we've now added the oil in as well, which will give us some data, and it's come up at 610, which is super close. Oh, it even comes with a tip. Okay, we are onto Gemini next. Let's see how we crack on there. Okay, so how many calories are in this? Let's add the photo and let's go. So again, Gemini is pretty close. We're in the 510 to 620 range, and then it's given me considerations to take into account. So if it's light butter that's been used, then that will sit close to the 500 calorie mark, or if it's like butter or olive oil, then it will sit close to the 620 mark. So let's add a little bit of detail now. So with the detail, we're now adding up a little bit more. We're in the 595 to 705 category. This is quite a big change, although the lowest number is pretty much bang on. It hadn't spotted the cheese in the original ingredients list, which I don't think Claude had either. So let's now add our final bit of detail and see where that leaves us calorie wise. So Gemini's total breakdown ends up at 635 calories, which is slightly over where we are actually at, but again, still not a bad guess. Okay, so onto our final one now, ChatGPT. Let's see how it cracks on. So again, we're estimating at that 650 calorie range, which isn't far off, but again, it's asking for more detail so that it can narrow it down. So let's add our first bit of detail in. Now, I've come up against a bit of a sticky wicket. Because I do not pay for ChatGPT, I can't put any more details into this chat, at least not for the next 40 minutes. So I guess we'll be finding out the rest of this in 40 minutes time. So I guess I'm gonna eat this meal and then I'll be catching back up with you.
A few moments later.
All right, we are back, let's go. So let's add these details in here now and see what it comes up with. Now this estimate's got even closer. So we're now at 600 calories, which is I think the closest that we've been. So let's add our final bit of detail in there and see if it gets it. So it's actually ended up estimating further away with the extra details in there, which is super interesting. Okay, so for this meal, let's talk about the accuracy so far. So for our photo only, Claude was 46 calories under, Gemini was 31 calories under, and ChatGPT was 54 calories over, meaning that Gemini was the most accurate so far. For the photo and the description, Claude was 35 calories under, Gemini was 54 calories over, and ChatGPT was 4 calories over. ChatGPT taking taking the winner there. And then when we add all of the details in there, adding the measurements in as well, Claude was 14 calories over, Gemini was 41 calories over, and ChatGPT was 54 calories over. I'm not gonna lie, so far I am surprised by the results. I'm super impressed by how accurate the AI has been at predicting these, and I think the technology is slightly further ahead than I was expecting. I do think that the most interesting test is going to be when we actually go for a meal out and see how many calories are in that and if it can get it accurately. Okay, so I've run an update for where we're at right now. So from breakfast, Gemini was the closest when we had the photo and the photo with the description, but when we added measurements into the mix, Claude took the win. At meal 2, Gemini took it in the photo only. When we added the description, ChatGPT came in closest, but when we added the measurements, Claude won again. So when we look in the photo only category, Claude is currently winning. It's only 44 calories over the actual number. Then when we added the description, Claude is still winning, only 4 calories over the actual target. But when we add more detail, Gemini comes in hot and actually is only 4 calories over. In terms of accuracy so far, the only one that we've seen under predict is Gemini, with its photo only predictions leaving us 66 calories short. And I don't know what ChatGPT has been playing at, but it is wildly over. I mean, I guess in terms of predictions, I'd always rather it over predict than under predict, but in terms of total accuracy, well, we're miles off. All right, let's get into our final meal. So last night my girlfriend and I went out for dinner. We went to somewhere with calories on the menu so that we could compare the calories on the menu to the number that AI predicts. But I'm not going to tell AI what restaurant we went to so it doesn't just do a search. I really want to test how close it can get in terms of calories without additional information that it could just find off a Google search. Because there's going to be times that you go to restaurants where the calorie information isn't on there. So I really want to see how useful this is as a tool. Now, obviously this brings into question how accurate are the calories on menus, and if you'd like me to do a video on that, let me know in the comments. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to be comparing to the number of calories that are on that menu. So let's get started. So starting with Claude, we're going to add our picture as usual. How many calories are in this? So one thing to note is that inside this picture there's actually the garlic butter from the dough balls. And if you're going out for a meal and you're just having like a shared dip, there is a possibility that you're going to be consuming more calories than you can actually count, and would be able to, because you're not the one controlling the portion size, or 2 being able to measure how much is actually going into your mouth. Claude has decided this is going to take several years to load.
One eternity later.
Okay, let's start with Gemini. So Gemini has estimated that it's a restaurant style pizza between 750 to 950 calories, which isn't a bad guess, but it's actually over. It has also noted about the ramekin of butter visible in the top left hand corner, which obviously is going to therefore impact the number of calories if that is eaten with the pizza. Great note from Gemini. So now we're going to add a little bit more detail. Obviously with this we can't add measurements in, therefore this is the only level of detail that we're actually going to be able to add to this section. It's actually overestimated the calories here. It's given us 850 to 950, but again, I'd rather it overestimate than underestimate, especially when it comes to eating out, because you never quite know what's gone into that meal. One of the biggest issues with restaurants having calories on the menu is that each portion is going to look slightly different, which therefore means that the calories are going to be different. The best way to explain this is, let's say you and I both go to a restaurant, we order an identical meal, the calories on the menu are therefore identical, however, mine has 7 chips and yours has 12 chips. Obviously that would be a terrible number of chips to have, but you can see the point is that the numbers would therefore be different, but we could track that the same because we only have that number to be the same. All right, so on to ChatGPT. So actually it's given us a relatively good estimate here. It's gone for 750 to 800 calories, which when the total number of calories is 711, not far off by any means. We're going to give it a little bit more detail and then see what it says. All right, so it's given us that middle ground of 775 because it reckons it's somewhere between the 700 to 850, which is bang on. It's suggesting that I should track it to about 800 calories for the whole pizza, so we'll take that number as our number here. All right, so Claude has come back to life and it's looking like it's estimating the total calories for the pizza from the photo only to be between 700 and 900 calories. So when we add our description, it actually brings the calories down to somewhere between 600 and 750, which is actually pretty close. It's given us a reasonable middle estimate of 680 calories, therefore that's what we'll use when it comes to our comparisons. So how did all of this stack up, and what's the best AI to use when it comes to tracking your calories? And is it actually that accurate at all? Okay, so let's talk total numbers. So our total calories for the day were 1,642. Now that's when we had all 3 meals taken into account, and of course we didn't use the photo description and the measurements on the final meal. So when we just took photos and descriptions into account, for the photos, Gemini came out the best with 73 calories out. And when we took a photo and the description, Claude came out the best with minus 27 calories, which is incredibly impressive considering it didn't didn't have any measurements for the day. And when Gemini had the photo, the description, and the measurements for the first 2 meals of the day, it actually came out with 4 calories over. That is crazy to me that we've been that accurate through photos and a few descriptions. And obviously the measurements, but the fact that like we've been so close is incredible. So I think if you're someone considering using AI as a tool to track your calories, I don't think you're crazy. This would have been something prior to doing this experiment that I'd have been like, actually it's not accurate yet, the technology is not there, but I think I've been proved wrong. I would say that obviously in a perfect world, if you are calorie tracking, you would be measuring and weighing out your food and you'd have as much accuracy with that as possible. But we don't live in a perfect world, so if you need that backup option of using AI, then maybe this is something to consider. I think it is also worth mentioning that there are a lot of ethical and environmental considerations to take into place when using AI, but we can't pretend that this isn't a tool that people are going to start adopting. So if it's something that you're considering using, then just make sure it aligns with your values. And if you want to keep seeing content like this, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you want to keep hanging out, then I'd recommend you check out this video next, where I spent the week doing 20,000 steps whilst working 9 till 5. I'll see you there.